Amongst all these sports in Uganda, rallying ranks amongst the most popular. Nowhere else in Africa are the roads lined with so many, all drawn to the spectacle that is so divorced from the normal way of life in the rural countryside. Every car is cheered on with enthusiasm, but they are mostly there to watch their local heroes, Riaz Kuji and Emmanuel Kato. Whilst there is a national series, the highlight of the season is the KCB Pearl of Africa Uganda Rally.
It's the blue ribbon event of rallying in Uganda. Everyone looks forward to this rally for months. And they should have good competition throughout, especially if there's a bit of rain in the mix here.
Everything about the KCB Pearl of Africa Uganda Rally is high profile, commencing with the launch of the event held at the Garuga Motocross Circuit on the edge of Lake Victoria.
KCB Bank Uganda Limited has not only gone ahead to again be the title sponsor, but we have gone ahead and increased our sponsorship by 25%. This was in line with the fact that we are very aware that motorsports is a very, very popular sport in Uganda.
The pre-event check of the cars was appropriately undertaken at the Lugogo Shell petrol station and marked the beginning of the rally. The KCB Pearl of Africa was the second round of the Uganda National Rally Championship, but more importantly was the third round of the African Rally Championship, which attracted 16 crews from across the continent. The event would also be the second round of the KCB East African Rally Challenge, which this year would include the 3 ARC rounds in Kenya, Uganda and Rwanda. Jamie White had won the inaugural 2008 challenge and was already well on his way to defending the title, having won the first round. Together with his navigator Phil Arkinol, the crew were also in the lead of the ARC, having won the opening 2 rounds in Tanzania and Kenya.
This time I'm definitely going to go and try to just pick up some valuable points, because to try and beat Emmanuel here and Riaz is going to be hard. So,
leading the Ugandan attack would be Riaz Kurji and Syed Kadri, who this year would be running in an N8. They would be leading the rally from the front, with compatriots Emmanuel Kato and Moses Matovu in their N14 right behind them.
No, I have to admit, this time I'm not going to be chasing Riaz. You know, we chased him last time to our detriment, you know, and we're driving a different event. You know, he can go all out for the win, but we're really concentrating on the ARC. And with the points that we...
Dr. Ashraf Ahmed was the local CRC and NRC champion, but to score maximum points, this rally would have to beat Ronald Sebuguzi.
We have seen the routes. The routes are pretty tough. So, you know, a lot of luck will play a role. My strategy is different. I hunt like the cheetah. I wait for the game to come.
The rally base was in the heart of the city of Kampala, which continues to be an expanding economic hub in East Africa. This is endorsed by the recent extension of a Kenyan-based supermarket chain, whose new Oasis shopping mall includes the new KCB branch, and it was here the ceremonial start took place.
I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, and this particular rally, which is called KCB Pearl of Africa Uganda Rally.
Number 1 now is on the run. Away first were Riaz Kurji and Syed Kadri, who led the field of 27 cars. Following a morning of miserable weather, spectators slowly made their way to the Kawuku spectator stage on the outskirts of the city. 20,000 turned out to watch at the Jumai housing estate, whose new homeowners will have a commanding view of Lake Victoria. It was a 2-kilometer circuit that would be attempted twice, but with the roads so slippery, it was a case of getting through without too much embarrassment. The roads had dried out for the second run, but on both attempts, Riaz Kruji and Syed Kadri were the quickest, which gave them an 18-second advantage. Jamie White and Phil Arconor were, as usual, subtly quick to claim second, with Lola and Megan Verlaque in the S2000 Polo in third. Tying for third were Ronald Sebuguzi and Cedric Buzabo. It was an early start the following morning, with Riaz Kruji and Syed Kadri once again leading the pack away for the 2 full days of intense competition. The first full day of rallying covered 13 stages, amounting to 171 kilometers of competitive motoring. Stages 4, 5 and 8 would be repeated, and apart from stages 9 and 10 that would be on narrow rough tracks, all the sections were almost flat out. Riaz Kruji and Syed Kadri have a no-holds-bar approach on every rally they enter and were undoubtedly the favourites to win. Surprisingly, they were only 5th quickest through the first stage of the day, but then got down to business and won the next 2. When they arrived at the first service, they were in the lead by 50 seconds.
Car is in good order, but my navigator is not well.
What?
He's not well. He's actually giving up, but I just told him, just take that. I know the roads a bit, so it's not so bad. That's why even if he doesn't call the notes, I don't want him to give up. Let me just carry on and finish it.
Muna Singh and David Sihoka were running 4th on the road with only one goal in mind: to stay at the head of the ARC race. It was imperative for them to gain maximum points in Uganda if they were to have any chance at the championship. They were quickest on stage 1 and in the top 3 on the other 2 to claim second overall. Emmanuel Kato and Moses Mutovu wanted to win this rally not only because it was their home event, but also to improve their chances in the ARC. They started the event cautiously with the knowledge they had much in reserve once they knew the pace of the rally. They were in third, having slipped behind by over a minute. In fourth were Jas Mangat and David Israel in the only N12 in the event. They are extremely quick, but were more focused on a good finish than breaking the car, and just planned to stay in touch with the leaders on day 1 for an all-out attack on day 2. One car that could be heard reverberating across the valleys was the S2000 Polo of Lola and Megan Verlaque. They were nimbly storming through the stages, extracting every ounce of speed the car would give. On the smooth, the VW was an equal match to the others, but on the rough, it was a totally different story. And eventually, the front suspension broke, and with more of the same coming up with the stages ahead, decided to retire.
I think the African conditions are a little bit extreme for this car. I don't think it's been developed for these roads, and obviously, I mean, you could come here and drive slowly and maybe finish, but I'm not here to drive slowly. So we're here to win, so we had to do what we could. We took it easy over the rough, and it wasn't easy enough.
Jamie White and Phil Arconor had won this event last year, but this year were more focused on the ARC and were not planning to defend the title in favour of preserving their lead in the championship. They were quick enough to claim 5th, which for now placed them 5th in the ARC race. Valerie Bukera and Nital Ketia, the only crew from Burundi, are also regular ARC contenders. They were getting quicker and quicker through each stage, only losing to Kruji on stage 5, but in the process they'd punched the car, which forced them into retirement. In 6th were Olivia Costa and Olivia Megank from Rwanda. This was their first rally in Uganda, and they were finding the roads a real eye-opener. What they lacked in sheer top-end speed was made up for by their consistency.
I'm quite happy. I'm surprised the car can take these things, and if we can get it to the end, we'll be very happy.
Giancarlo De Vite and Sylvia Wintervogel found the roads hard going and were off their normal pace. They also thought they damaged their suspension, but it turned out to be a bent rim. They had lost 3 minutes to the leaders, which placed them 7th.
Just after the start, I got a jump. In fact, the rim was bended, and it was touching the part of the wheel, the arch. By the way, it's very hard.
Further down the leaderboard, the local Ugandan entries were finding the rally hard going. Already 3 had dropped by the wayside, including super lady Susan Muwange and Edmond Keyune, who were out with a blown engine. One crew that was doing well were Ronald Sebuguzi and Cedric Buzabo. Whilst they were keen to show that they can match the pace of the foreigners, their priority was the local championship, and being 10th placed them ahead of their immediate rivals.
Where would you like to finish?
Position like number 4 or 5.
Do you reckon you can?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. If we get through today, okay, I'm pretty sure we can.
After stage 5 and 1/3 of the day behind them, Riaz Kurji held a lead of 50 seconds, but with the pace of the rally now established, the top 4 places were far from settled. As the cars headed for the following 3 stages, they passed through the small town of Mityana, which was also the central hub of the event. The drivers were all beginning to settle in, each now forming a strategy towards repositioning themselves on the leaderboard. For Riaz Kurji and Syed Kadri, this strategy was simple: to consolidate their lead. Although Syed was still not feeling well, they increased their leading margin to nearly 2.5 minutes.
I just want to finish this one, try and win it if possible, but actually come back home finishing the rally, not dropping out.
But it's quite a big thing for you to win this Uganda rally, being this is your home event.
Got a lot of fans here, so for the fans we have to do it.
Behind them, only Muna Singh and David Sihoka held their place on the leaderboard as positions behind them became reshuffled.
Our aim was to try and get ahead of Jaime, and we've kind of done that, I think. But we need to stay there and make sure that more people can get in between, so at least we're gaining on the points.
Stage 6 would be the turning point for Emmanuel Kato and Moses Motovu when a front rim disintegrated. Following a difficult change, they lost 2 places on the road. Some time was made up when they were quickest over stages 7 and 8, but they had dropped from 3rd to 8th overall.
Just the one piece, the centerpiece, is left on the hub, and the tire had actually gone right into the strut. So we got the little piece off, but then the wheel was actually stuck, jammed into the. So it took us a long time to change. We lost about.
Jas Mangat and David Israel hit a hole and bent a front control arm, and the time lost dropped them from 4th to 10th. When they were going, they were setting a blistering pace, thoroughly enjoying the conditions.
Good conditions for driving today. It's rained a bit last night, so the soil's really grippy, and good sunshine, so good visibility.
With Kato and Mangat dropping back, everyone in the top 10 moved up 2 places, which elevated Jamie White and Phil Arconol to 3rd, but more importantly, placed them 2nd in the ARC.
We've been going, I wouldn't say 100%, probably 75% the whole day. Taking it pretty easy over the rough. Muna is definitely quicker than me today, and so I'll let Muna, he can go, and I'll just watch what happens behind me.
Olivia Costa and Olivia McGank inherited 4th place and found themselves in a vacuum over a minute ahead of the car behind. Giancarlo De Vite and Sylvia Vindevogel were 5th, but they had increased their pace anyway as they became more comfortable with Ugandan road conditions. Mohamed Essa and Dave Milner were also no longer holding back and were setting times amongst the top 3, which placed them in 6th. But it had been an exciting ride. Despite a misfire, Ronald Sebuguzi and Cedric Buzabo were in 7th and were still the 3rd highest placed Ugandans. At the halfway stage of the first leg, Riaz Kruji had a commanding lead, and with the others behind dropping back, he was now in a position where he would not have to push so hard. Missing from the front-end race were Anwar Pandya and George Mwangi in the cover jokes 1 and 10. Not far into the first section, the rear shocks had burst, forcing them to limp through the stages. Once the shocks were replaced, they began to pick up time, but then the steering came loose. All in all, it was a disappointing outing, but they persevered and would finish 14th.
The only way, I suppose, to come up in the top is to hit things, and if you're lucky, you're lucky. If you're not, you're not. Unfortunately, it's not one of my days today, so I was really hoping to enjoy this rally, but unfortunately not.
Another crew to have a disastrous start were Dr. Ashraf Ahmed and Musa Subuga. The newly installed Motec system made the car backfire nicely, but gave them no power. They eventually bypassed the system, but the time lost placed them last on the road and last overall.
We were a little suspicious, but then the team manager said, no, go ahead, carry on with the Motec, because I insisted, let's put the standard ECU, but they said no.
All Ugandans are passionate about rallying, but lack the resources to take part. One driver who was more determined than most is Jeffrey Kiyago, who runs under the pseudonym of the Black Widow, navigated by Paul Nsubuga. Despite having a weak suspension, they would finish 17th, which hopefully will attract them some sponsorship.
That name is a pseudonym. It was given to me by the supporters. You know, black, I'm proud of to be black in Africa. Our widow is someone who left without any support. And for me, I entered the rally without any support, just the front.
The rally had been reduced to only 20 runners, with Bob Roberts and Alfredo Fiore the last to retire. Watch closely to see why. Up at the front of the rally, Riaz Kruji and Syed Kadri were still on the attack, took us through stage 9, gaining another 28 seconds. Then on the rough stage 10, the rear suspension broke. Although they lost over a minute, they still hung on to the lead. Muna Singh and David Sihoka continued to drive at a pace to both preserve the car and to maintain the ARC lead, and remained in second. Jamie White and Phil Arconel were now pacing their rally, losing nearly a minute on the next two stages, but were still comfortable in third. The crew on a mission were Emmanuel Kato and Moses Motovu. They were desperate to recover the time lost earlier and set the fastest time over stage 10 by nearly a minute. It was enough to move them up the leaderboard 4 places to 4th overall. Everyone behind moved down a place, with Olivia Costa and Olivia Megank now in 5th. Behind the crowds was Giancarlo Davite and Sylvia Vildevogel, who were in 6th, only 5 seconds behind Costa. At the pace they were going, Mohamed Essa and Dave Milner were continuing to visit the countryside. They were in 7th, continuing to close in. Jas Mangat and David Israel had repaired the N12 and immediately made up 2 places to slip into 8th. Losing time on the rough stages were Ronald Sebuguzi and Segedu Jabu, who dropped 3 places to 10th. Also losing 3 places, not wanting to break their new car, were Izzah Mirza and Ashad Khan. They were now in 12th. During the day, the cars visited the Mitiana service park 3 times, and for the support crews, it was a busy time. Riaz Kurji and Syed Qadri had replaced the whole of the rear suspension and set off for the last 3 stages of the day. On board with the manual Kato, they are seen leaving for stage 11. But less than a minute later, they lost control, flew into the air and slammed into an anthill. Riaz took the brunt of the impact and died instantly. The car had been vertical when it hit the anthill, which ripped off the roof. The damage was so extensive that it was by sheer fortune that navigator Syed Qadri emerged unhurt. Back on board with the manual Kato, one can see the speed at which they will have been travelling along the narrow road. The rally was immediately halted, with competitors returning to the service park. No one had the heart to continue, and the rally was terminated. The final results were posted as at stage 10, declaring Riaz and Syed to be the winners. Under the circumstances, the results were academic, although the top 10 included all the ARC contenders, with Muna Singh up at the front. The local entries filled the latter places, although it must have been disappointing for Dr. Ashraf Ahmed to have come last. Jamie White continues to lead the African Rally Championship, but with 2 rounds remaining in Zambia and Zimbabwe, Emmanuel Kato and Muna Singh are still in with a chance. In the KCB East African Rally Challenge, Jamie White holds a slender lead over Muna Singh. The decider will be the Rwanda Mountain Gorilla Rally. There are 4 rounds remaining in the FMU National Championship, which Ronald Sebuguzi leads by 26 points. Judging from his performance in the Pearl of Africa, he must be the favourite to win. Riaz Kurji has been described as Africa's most aggressive rally driver, and his fearless approach to either win or break the car trying has seen him do both on numerous occasions. He will not only be remembered for his escapades in the sport he loved, but also as a generous and humble player with an infectious sense of humour.
He was a real character, and he was a big character in rallying. And, he's somebody that, we always had a joke between us. We always had a bet between us. And I'm sure you remember the famous $100,000 bet that took place a couple of years ago. The funniest part of it was that, he was really, really serious about it. I didn't realize how serious he was about it until the event actually took place.
His driving style was so flamboyant that even experienced drivers were fascinated by his ability. But it was in Uganda where his popularity was unmatched.
The loss felt by many rally fans has been tremendous. I think the Ugandans took him to heart when he came as a novice, but then he really rose to the top of the sport in just a few short years.
He also became a role model in Kenya, where he regularly competed, and his absence leaves an irreplaceable vacuum.
Motor rallying in East Africa, and especially the KCB Kenya National Rally Championship and the KCB East African Rally Challenge, have lost one of the top rally drivers. Fantastic skills and good humor, and a man who lived life the way it should be lived, and it's a very big blow to the motor rallying in this region.
Riaz may have left us, but his memory is etched so deeply that he will always be remembered.